Welcome to the Elements of Spirit readings for the week of July 10th, 2017. These are free weekly video readings from ediblespirits.com and your host, Michael Domitrovich, that's me, bringing you readings through the elements, the classical elements of earth, air, water, and fire, said to be the elements that combine to make all kinds, literally all of the kinds of manifestation on earth. They never exist alone. They always exist in combination with each other. But the purpose of this reading is to understand and work with your primary element, which is associated with your astrological sun sign. So whatever your sign is for your birthday, look in the description below this and you'll find the element that's associated with your sign, aka your primary element. This reading is not earth, air, water, or fire. This reading is the ether reading, which is the fifth element, which is also thought of as, the fifth element of ether, but it's also the spaces in between the other four elements. So when you listen to this ether reading and combine it with your element, your primary element, you'll get your elements of spirit for the week. And both the ether readings and the element readings have affirmations with them. So you can use those affirmations kind of as needed whenever you want a dose of whatever you liked from this reading. Or you can use them as meditation where there goes my pen, where you make a note of the affirmations and you sort of use them, set a timer and use them to just contemplate and repeat that affirmation as needed in your mind in order to align yourself, your whole being, with the affirmation. So without further ado, we go into the element of ether. Interesting. Okay, cool. So there's this, it's a beautiful sweeping energy, and there's you and me and all of us. Super cool. So this is you, me, all of us. This is that sweeping energy, and there's something here about who is watching you. Who are you watching? It's almost like glancing at the crowd, to read the crowd. It's pre-performance jitters. I don't know how many of you are creatives out there, but pre-performance jitters. Anticipation of a big opening. That's so funny. So this is a great example of, I have a background in theater, performance, directing, writing, blah, blah, blah. This is my guides using an analogy that I will understand right away. Maybe this will literally have to do with you, but we also are reading it symbolically in terms of the ether, saying that there's a moment that's going on where you are, we've gotten this before, like a scanning of the horizon, but instead of a scanning of the horizon this time, we're really dealing with a scanning of the crowd, a scanning of the audience. This is also solar plexus conflict. Excuse me. Any of you who've worked with me before, not literally, anytime I touch a solar plexus or work with a solar plexus, I'll have empathic burps. I burp a lot anyway, but empathic burps are a thing. Solar plexus, okay. Root chakra, self versus self, existence, individual. Sacral chakra, self versus other, my experience of the other. Root chakra, my experience of self. Sacral chakra, my experience of the other. So plexus chakra, my experience of the group. Self versus group, self versus community, self versus neighborhood, self versus world at large. Heart chakra, I forget the one. Well, that means there's a different one coming through. There's one I used to use, but that's not coming. Yeah, self versus self in the world. So heart chakra is when you go from self versus world into an awareness of I am not separate from the world. I am the world is me. There's no difference between us. So self versus world, moving into self versus self in the world. I begin dialoguing with others as though we are one. Okay, so those are just some examples of conflict. So the one that's coming up today are chakra conflicts, right? The one that's coming up today is the solar plexus conflict, self versus the world, or self versus the group, which could be self versus the office, self versus the family, even self versus the neighborhood, self versus the community, self versus more than one other person. And in this case, it's saying that it's lighting up this relationship between who is watching you, who do you think is watching you, who are you watching, and is your performance based upon who's watching you or who you're watching? It almost seems like there's this attempt to read the crowd, glancing at the crowd, to read the crowd for pre-performance jitters and anticipation of a big opening. And that's where we get into the symbolism of this, because anticipation of a big opening in the literal reading of this image is like anticipation of an opening night performance. Anticipation of a big opening is a big opening in yourself. Something big is coming, something big is going to come out. I mean, you, I, we have all been what feels like to me emotionally fighting, deep fight, reckoning, we'll call it. We won't even call it fighting. We'll call it an emotional reckoning to give yourself what you need, to take care of yourself, to nourish yourself. As we move into full moon in Capricorn, happens Saturday, just after midnight Sunday, West Coast, East Coast. And Capricorn, if Cancer was calling us to mother ourselves, Capricorn is calling us to father ourselves. So traditional, we're talking like trying to give ourselves what we need and nourish ourselves in Sun in Cancer and in New Moon in Cancer. And now we go into securing that security and comfort in tangible, real world form. But also, my sense in this is like, this is going to be a week where you get to assume the authority that manifests your comfort and security. Even if you don't feel immediately externally comfortable and secure. The idea is you finish off the work, all of this Cancerian work, by assuming your rightful place, your authority to manifest what you want, to work for, and bring home and feather the nest with the feathers that are most strongest and securest and most stable and deliciously comforting for you. So the idea is the big opening is acting like / choosing, making choices as though you are the star / executive producer. So it's like you're either the diva on stage bringing the house down, or the fantastically powerful artistic director that has organized the show and brought everything together. And the idea here is both the diva and the artistic director are going to scan the audience and say, who's watching? What's the house like? Is it warm? Is it cold? Is it this? Is it that? The idea here is that you may be asking who is watching you, but the next question would be, well, who fucking cares? Who are you watching? Why do you care what audience is watching you? Artistic director, executive producer's job is to, if we're dealing with pre-performance jitters, if the audience is already there, it's like it's too late. You're not really going to be able to make any grand business moves in the 10 minutes before the show opens that, recasts this or that does that, that recasts this or fires this person and hires another person. And you're also like, not going to do a different role just because your audience is different. You may micro adjust, you may do certain things differently, but my sense of the read here is that you're having pre-performance jitters in anticipation of a big opening, and instead of assuming your authority as the diva, the star, or the one who holds all the strings, both purse strings and creative strings, and that authority to be standing on the stage, right? Opening night jitters. Who's speaking right before the show goes on? The executive producer slash, artistic director of the Metropolitan Opera or whatever. Thank you all for coming. Da 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 da. They're not gonna do anything too dramatic, and the diva is still gonna do the part. She might do it a little bit differently, but with a micro adjustment. But she's not gonna do a different show. She's not gonna change her role. She is where she is, and so the idea here is that the most important thing is to assume your place and to assume that place of authority. Okay, great. So now we have our affirmation for this week. I accept my authority in this moment and make all choices with love and sovereignty. Okay, so I accept my authority in this moment basically says, what are you reckoning with? Who cares who's watching you? Who cares who you're looking at? Stop looking at them. Let them look at you. People are going to watch. People might have opinions, but who really cares? You have an opening to get to. You have a role to play, a starring role to play. You have a project to realize fully in the most luxurious and economic of ways. So get to work, get to your opening. And the affirmation says, I accept my authority in this moment. I am center stage. I accept my authority in this moment. I'm center stage, I'm in charge. And I make all choices with love and sovereignty. So the idea is, between now and the opening, you have some choices. And the opening is, I don't think it's performance related. I feel like something pops this week. I feel like something comes pouring out, something is relieved, something is settled into. It just has like the best aspects of Capricorn are strong, steady, dependable, even predictable to some extent. And my sense is that there's been like a lot of build up, and now we get to go, oh, okay, during this week. So there's choices to be made between now and then. Affirming, I make all choices with love and sovereignty. Love for self and love for others. So I make these choices as the star with love for myself and love for others around me. So harm to none. Don't be a dick. You don't have to act like a diva in order to work like a diva, right? And sovereignty, because I'm fucking in charge. I'm in charge of my life. I'm in charge of this moment. If I'm watching or if I'm being watched, I am in charge. I have sovereignty in my very bones. That's very Capricorn too. I am the emperor of my body because of the authority of my skeleton, the authority of my bones. Deep, hard, strong structure internally. Accept it, assume it, don't question it, don't look too hard. I accept my authority in this moment and I make all choices with love and sovereignty. Let's see how the elements respond to the ether. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.